Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to speak in the third reading of this bill. I should just note that the previous member moved that the motion for this reading, that it be heard rather than read, but I'm sure the House will take that in the spirit intended. In the introduction of this bill, the Labor Party made clear that we had some concerns around the checks and balances, or the lack of checks and balances in respect of trust deeds in this bill. But I am pleased that the Select Committee, under the very able chairmanship of David Parker, has brought through some amendments to this bill which put in place the sorts of checks and balances that we as a Parliament would want to see. And I just wanted to discuss some of those, and maybe one or two that we're still left with the trustees to have some discretion. Under Clause 5, where the House, should it support, is inserting a new subsection to allow the trustees to vary the purposes of charitable trusts in certain circumstances, though these do differ with that set out in the Charitable Trusts Act, which is the legislation that governs all trusts operating in this country. The committee was assured by the board of Christ's College that in exercising their powers to vary the original purpose, they will complete a detailed review of the trust to ensure, for the avoidance of doubt, that the original purpose cannot continue to be met fully. And I think that's an assurance the House would want. Trusts are quite sacred instruments. They endure for a very long time, and I should of course note that this bill amends the Christ College Canterbury Amendment Bill of 1910, so here we are a century later dealing with a venerable institution and trying to assist it, I guess, to ensure that it proceeds into the next century in an appropriate and fiscally responsible fashion. But I do welcome that change, because I think it's important that we signal that we want to see trustees made very explicit to them that where they make changes, these have to be in situations where the original purposes, where money was donated, often in situations such as families trying to honour somebody who'd passed away, that those original intentions are honoured by the changes we make. The other thing that I would note is around the new trust purposes, and there was a concern in the Select Committee, and appropriately so, that there could be a situation, because the original bill talked about allowing a new purpose for a trust to be for the benefit of the college. And of course, while almost all of the college's activities are indeed focused on its educational outcomes, there could be situations where the benefits might go to the college rather than to a charitable purpose, and that's why an amendment has been brought forward by the Select Committee. And I guess just comparing this bill to that with the Methodist Church Trust Bill, and there have been a number of bills amending trust deeds, trust legislation pertaining to the four major Christian churches of our country, Anglican, Presbyterian, Catholic, and most latterly the Methodist Church Trust Bill of last year. In that bill, we actually introduced an amendment which required the oversight of the Attorney-General where there are variations made to original trust deeds, and that hasn't come through in this bill through the Select Committee process. So I guess we are putting some trust with the Board of Governors, with the trustees of those trusts at Christ's, and there are 20 or 30 of them affected by this bill. We know that they will, in almost every instance, and almost certainly in every instance, honour the intent of the original trust, direct the funds towards a charitable purpose, make sure that where there is a variation from the original trust because of passage of time, that the original intent is still kept to, obviously for an educational and charitable purpose. And that's really, really good to see that those amendments are coming through the Select Committee process. One other thing that came to mind to me in the question time today was a question to Minister Tolley about national standards. Now, of course, Christ College, as a private school, is not affected by national standards. No, private schools are spared national standards. Yes, it's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? That all state schools are affected by national standards, but private schools are not affected by national standards, even though I do know in circumstances of private schools, there are a number of principals at private schools who still question the value of national standards and shake their heads at why on earth national standards are being introduced without any attempt to pilot these in the state schools where they are being included.
Third reading.
Thank you, sir. But anyway, that's not going to affect Christ's College, and this bill doesn't touch on that, as Mr. Speaker has noted. I was very pleased to visit Christ's last year with Phil Goff. One of the things I was very impressed about, other than, of course, the wonderful neo-Gothic facades of that institution, which mercifully has come through, yes, with some damage, but it's still standing, was the broadband infrastructure of that school. And I would hope that as the trustees look at the future purposes that they might direct funds towards that are no longer going to be used for such perhaps archaic past subjects as Greek or I won't say divinity as other members may, because obviously that's still a very important framework around the school. It's very proudly a Christian school, and that's part of its whole ethos. But there is a fantastic infrastructure for Christ's College by way of ICT. It's probably got the best broadband connections. While I was there with Phil Goff, students were online with the Scion Forest Research Institute in Rotorua asking scientists about particular issues on forestry. Fantastic to see that sort of engagement. I think it's probably already well ahead of many schools, and I'd hope that the government's new initiatives around broadband will see every school in the country with the same sorts of connectivity. Hugely important if we want to be a knowledge economy to provide that. But I'd hope that Christ's College, having had the foresight and the funding to put in place that infrastructure, might look towards continuing the advance that it's provided to its students in terms of broadband. It's a fantastic technology for students to tap into at that sort of level. It will equip them very, very well for the future. That's really important. So just wrapping up, this bill obviously has been through the Select Committee process. I think the refinements that have been attached requiring where there are variations to trusts, that trustees take note of the need for these still to be charitable purposes, to take note of the fact that there is a measure of trust, I suppose, provided by there hasn't been the requirement for the Attorney-General to provide oversight, as has applied for some of the church trusts, that the trustees will take the sanction of Parliament that we have provided to them in a unanimous, bipartisan kind of way as a signal of the faith that this Parliament has in that fine institution of Christ's College, will ensure that the purposes of the monies that are now freed up, and we're talking many hundreds of thousands of dollars across these 20 or 30 trusts, so it's not inconsequential. It's a powerful sum of money that it be used for the best purposes, that is for the future education of pupils at Christ's College.